Now, please welcome a man who's not only the co-founder of Aardman, but also the director of the Pirates, Mr. Peter Lord. And, of course, the man who is the pirate captain, Mr. Hugh Grant. Well, you brought the pirate captain, Peter.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yes. This is him. In his full, what is this, 10 inches, 12 inches glory?
Yeah. Oh, he's big. He's big compared to Wallace.
Oh, yeah?
Well, it's giant.
About
Wallace only stands about that high.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And Hugh, was this on display when you were recording the film? Your dialogue? Was it there as an aid?
Yes, I had to have him. I couldn't do it without him. And I used to stroke him a bit. I found that I needed to stroke Beard to be the character. So I'd either stroke an imaginary one or stroke his, or sometimes I'd stroke Peter's.
Yeah.
Okay. So you weren't tempted to go method for this role and grow your own luxuriant beard?
No, it would not have come out a success.
Yeah, no.
You're not a beard man then. So Peter, what is the Pirates? How did they come about for you?
It's easily told because there's a book. There's a book by a young British author called Gideon Defoe, a very, very funny book. And it was there in a meeting, lying on a table. I picked it up and started to read it in the meeting, because the meeting was frankly quite boring. And it was I laughed, read 6 pages, kept on laughing, and thought it was uniquely funny, and thought, wouldn't it be great if we could put that on the screen? That was the idea. Simple as that. Okay. And that was the simple bit. Yes. And then
several years later
follows 2 years of hard slog to get it on the screen. Yeah.
Okay. And
to get it into a script form.
Oh yeah.
And then 3 more years of hard slog to get it on the screen. Yeah.
So this film's taken up how much of your life?
5 years from 5 years and more from picking up that book to now.
Wow, yeah. Okay. That's stop motion animation.
Yeah, well, that's animation for you.
Yeah, indeed.
It's always slow.
Absolutely. And Hugh, this is a character unlike anything you've ever played. Was that an appeal?
Yes, I suppose it was. You're right. I looked at this character and I thought, well, that's not me. You know, he's this big, barrel-chested, bearded, poppy-eyed man. And I actually had to act a bit to do it. It was very uncharacteristic.
Was that okay? Were you okay? Or
what's that?
Were you okay? Was it fun?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
I mean, it made me a little nervous, especially because, as Peter says, they do a rough version of the film first with other actors, you know, sort of actors they've come to love over the years. And then the studio makes them use name actors. And so I always felt I wasn't being as good as whoever his temporary actor had been.
Okay. This isn't true, surely, Peter, is it?
Well, broadly speaking, it's true, but... But yeah, I mean, it does happen. It's a fact of life, and yes, you do get used to that voice because you live. You. I mean, I could have asked you to come in on day one, but it never works that way. I was in it for a long time. I was the pirate captain for quite a while.
Yes, I've heard. I'm not worried about your performance. That was terrible.
I was pretty good. And then. So yes, you do get used to a voice, and then yes, to be absolutely honest, when we first met, the first session was quite hard work.
Okay.
No, that is true.
Yeah, when in a good way, though.
Is this because you had slightly different instincts? Because you think about pirates, you think, "Arr!"
No, not me. I never thought that.
You never thought that?
No, I never
was
thought
that where you were coming from initially?
No, I worked out very early on that was not what was required.
Yeah.
So what was your idea then for playing the pirate captain? What did you...
Well, I don't know. I just loved the jokes in the script, and I felt I was brilliant at him, frankly, at home in my kitchen. And then I got to the recording, and I was a little nervous of the Aardman people, because, you know, they are such geniuses, and I was nervous of the situation that they had a previous voice. So I was a little tense and shrill to begin with. But in the end, yes, it was a joy, really. I mean, he's... I tell you who he's a bit like. A bit sort of Willie Rushton.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. Yes. He's. I mean, what's great about him, and what's great about what Hugh's done, is he has this kind of wonderful sort of short-sightedness. Like he never looks ahead, never thinks about the next thing that's going to happen. Is fantastic, bluff and cheerful and optimistic. And it's a very engaging characteristic, and he was brilliant at it. Brilliant.
Absolutely. And were you a method actor in the room? Did you do the moves and the swashbuckling and the sword waving and whatnot?
I did a bit of wiggling around. Yes, I did. And what they do is they film you just in case you do something amusing with your limbs, so that the animators can then follow you. But I don't think that ever happened.
But there was some very amusing stuff with the face, though.
The face,
some very good stuff with the face. Yeah. Because what we love, in all animation, but what we love doing is we love working with the voice. The voice is the joy, and the more interesting and detailed and sort of elaborate it is, the more I love it. In fact, I so much so that I would select from Hugh's takes, which would be numerous, and I would instinctively choose all the longest ones, so that the scene would get to be absurdly flabby, because every line would have some interesting hesitation or repetition in it.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to get real and just use it selectively for effect rather than the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay. Was the pirate captain the chief appeal of these books? This character, because it's filled with really colourful characters. Darwin is fantastic. The pirate with the scarf. They're great background characters, but he dominates clearly.
It was the tone of the whole thing. That's easy to say, but just that the strange a sort of naivety is what runs through it, but a very knowing naivety, because Gideon as a writer is very smart, but everyone else behaves in a very charming, idiotic, naive way. So, when at one stage the captain, he dresses up as a girl guide, right?
Yeah.
Which is to say, puts on a girl guide outfit, still got a huge beard, but because he's dressed as a girl guide, everybody falls for it, which is lovely. It's just charming.
Yeah. Hugh, I read an interview you did with us, with Empire Magazine, that the humour of this movie was very much in your wheelhouse. It's very much Monty Python, Terry Pratchett. Is that fair to say? Is that what appealed?
Yes, I mean, I was raised on all that kind of comedy, I suppose, and the script written by Gideon, based on his own books, the humour is it is Monty Python. It's sort of surreal, silly, but clever at the same time.
Yeah.
With sort of clever references,
Yeah.
There's not many mainstream Hollywood cartoons that have Charles Darwin and Jane Austen and the Elephant Man.
Yeah. Alongside pratfalls and incredible chase sequences.
Yeah.
And speaking, nice segue by the way, from myself. Speaking of nice chase sequences, we got a first clip, which is reminiscent. I know Wallace and Gromit is Nick Park, but this is a Wallace and Gromit-esque chase sequence. I don't know if you can set it up, Peter.
It's true. We simply wanted to do a chase sequence. That's rather vulgar, but we did, like on principle, because it's fun. It's fun to do, and we had a very, very elaborate one across London, where the captain got on a penny farthing and chased a hansom cab across London at great speed, and then ended up on the rooftops, and it was incredibly elaborate and very, very. And the producer was going very white when she looked at it, and it was getting very long, and we simplified it. At some stage we simplified, and in a sort of yes, I admit, a slightly Wallace and Gromit way, we thought we'd set it in a small space, but make it a big chase in a small space, and somebody had the idea that the captain, everyone would end up in a bath and fall through the floor, and that seemed like a very good idea.
Okay.
I thought, that's a good idea. I love a bath sliding down and destroying the house of a famous, important leading scientist. That sounds good to me.
Fantastic. Let's take a look at the clip. Now, how hard is that to do? Not just to animate, which I imagine is quite painful, but the script. It must be quite complex.
It does take an awfully long time because it's purely visual, because there's no dialogue in there. So when you start, there's no structure at all, and you do it in storyboarding. So tons and tons of storyboarding, and we would do that, 8 or 10 passes just of that, refining it, changing it, elaborating it, despairing of it, throwing it away, coming and starting again. So there's a lot of that, and then we do a thing. Which is called previs, which is a rough CG version of the same scene. Rough because the modelling is approximate and there's no rendering or lighting, but a rough CG modelling of the whole scene to see how it plays in, to see what we need to build actually.
What's rendering?
I mean, rendering like putting on all the colour and the texture and that sort of thing. So in the previs version, it was all just black and white and simple, and there was no performance at all. Okay. And everyone looks bizarre.
So how long does it take, roughly, for that entire sequence?
It's very, very hard to judge, but probably, if you could, a year, probably, from start to finish, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the sets were very elaborate, because although he was shooting down the stairs that you might expect to be like that, most of the stairs were like that. It was easier. And we did that thing, as in the Hanna-Barbera cartoons of old. that he'd zoom along a stretch of wall like this,
Yeah.
and then go back to start and zoom it along again, and then go back to start and zoom along. So the walls were exceedingly long, and the house is, conservatively a mile wide and 20 stories high. It's really enormous. Big old house.
Yeah.
But Darwin was a very rich man,
Yeah,
apparently.
Absolutely. How much of this is based on fact?
Well,
by the
most
way?
of it is rich.
You did build these giant sets because there's a great shot of Brian Blessed who plays the Pirate King with considerable understatement, as you might expect, inside one of these sets.
Yeah.
Now, Hugh, did you go on set? Did you ever get a sense of that tactile environment around you?
Well, I went to visit these madmen down in Bristol, and it's just an amazing sight. Is it true that there's one of your animators working on a 10-second sequence in the pub?
Right.
Got married, had a baby, everything in the time it took to make that with 10 seconds.
It wasn't quite that bad, but he was in that one. But he was in that pub the whole time. Yes, he went to the pub in May one year and then merged in September the following year. So.
So you do let people out now and again just to get
Yeah.
But imagine changing. I mean, moustache, beard, eyebrows, eyes, hands, feet, everything. 24 times every second, and that's just his character. Then there's 4 others in the shot, and there's sails and seagulls and dodos.
It's quite an endeavour. I mean, but as an actor, is it good for you because you get to come in for a couple of weeks, do some voiceovers in a booth, and then these guys
they managed to string it out much longer than that. I said I'd do it on the basis that it was a quick in and out.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was a massive, long, laborious process.
So you keep getting the phone call to come back in and do some more.
Yes.
Is that how it works?
Yes.
Yeah.
The good thing about Hugh is that, in fact, because as you often state, Hugh doesn't want to work too much, doesn't want to do too many projects, which is good, because what's really dismaying is when you see the same actor over 18 months and you say, what have you done? They've done 12 films and a TV series, a couple of plays at the West End, and we're still chugging on the one project. That's kind of, you despair a bit then. Yeah.
You have turned down a lot of stuff. I mean, in the same interview with us in Empire, you say you turn down most scripts that you get. So why is that, first of all? Are they just not appeal to you? And why did this one appeal to you?
Well, I've always been lazy, and I've always been difficult to please when it comes to scripts, and picky.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the less inclined I am to be sitting there at 6 a.m. having makeup put on my face. And I have other things I'm quite interested in now.
Yeah.
So on the whole, I don't do much acting. But then a little curiosity comes up like this, and it's just so brilliant. It was such a sort of bullseye in terms of my sense of humour and their record that I felt, and I thought it'd be a quick job.
Little did you know.
Yeah.
And Peter, can you talk about adapting the books? Because the book by Gideon Defoe is fantastic, but it doesn't really bear much resemblance to the film.
No, actually, in the end, really quite little of resemblance. Yeah. All I will say is that Gideon was there the whole time, and stories evolve. It exists in just a story form. As a treatment, even as postcards stuck on the wall. It exists in that form for maybe as much as a year, and you just kick it around until you love it. It's easy to say and hard to know when you do love it. And there were lots of great material that we lost. There was a quite an extraordinary scene where I think the pirate captain dressed up as the Holy Ghost. I think at one stage, and there was Queen Victoria wasn't in it at all.
Yeah.
And there was no dodo, so really quite a different story.
Okay, because Queen Victoria is the villain of the piece.
Yes, she's very bad.
Which
She's a very bad queen.
A pirate-hating bad guy.
Yeah.
Which again is based on fact. I believe.
Yeah.
Can you talk about where that came from, that inspiration? Because she's not really in the book at all.
No, I can't. I just can't remember. No, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Stories are really, really difficult, actually.
Yeah.
Stories are difficult, and then screenplays are difficult. But stories, the most difficult. And I know because we're trying some more at Aardman now, and you think you've got a great idea in the half an A4 page, and to turn it into a working story is extraordinarily difficult because it's just a question of like instinct and feel. Anyway, that's how it went with this story. And where the Queen came from, I don't know. One day she was in there, and then she stayed.
And there she stayed. And this next clip actually introduces Queen Victoria.
good. What's this?
It's the scene on the boat near the end.
Oh,
If you want to talk about that with
is this the end?
with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
skirt?
yeah.
This
Okay.
This is near
Well,
the end.
okay.
Yeah.
No,
Spoiler warning, people.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. I'm sorry for the audience. The audience now know this, but yes, it's not obvious that the Queen is quite such a villain at first. She just seems to be a queen, but then as things go along, she turns out to be really quite a demented queen, and the captain has come to her flagship, which is an enormous iron ship. It's an enormous, what they call them, a dreadnought, a metal dreadnought. But on the deck is clearly the Royal Pavilion from Brighton, and they have a big fight there because she's desperate to get the dodo to eat it.
Okay. Roll the clip. Okay. And there's quite a lot more in the finished film, which again,
Quite a lot more.
quite a lot more, a lot more.
Yeah.
Which again shows the depth of the background jokes in Aardman's movies. Not just this, but Chicken Run, Wallace and Gromit. You guys really put a lot into what's going on.
We
in the
do.
background.
It's actually it's rather interesting because it genuinely seems to me that we put it in because the model makers love to. I mean, that's like I mean. The background is full of jokes, and many of them I've never seen. Literally, I've never seen because there's such a profusion of them. I might say joke. It might just be there are various animals cooking,
Yes.
and there might be there's an aardvark in there. There's a narwhal. There's a boa constrictor with a pig visibly inside it. All these extraordinary things, and just amusing, funny little details. If you can, one day you'll see it, and we don't mind if you don't. People have such fun making it. And that's an end in itself. Sometimes I think.
And Hugh, did you ad lib at all in the recording booth?
Yeah, to a certain extent, perhaps less than other films because the script was so razor sharp.
Yeah.
But there are ad libs. Right at the end of the trailer there, and he says, crew in the street says, yo.
Yeah.
That was, I think, that was me.
Thank you for that. Absolutely.
I know.
Gold dust.
I was paid almost nothing.
Do you get paid per ad lib? Is that how it works?
I should be.
Maybe for the sequel, who knows? But if you have any questions to ask Peter and Hugh now, then if now is your chance. Please put your hand up, and some roving microphones will come and find you. Let me see. Anyone at all? Oh yes, just in the front row. Thank you.
I was just, as a CG animator, I know that when I'm taking instruction from a director, it's very easy for the director because he's seen me work through the shot.
Yes.
From a very basic level, and then you add layers of refinement. And obviously in stop motion, that's entirely different because it's just done frame by frame. So how do you go about directing your animators and getting the performance that you need?
It is absolutely radically different for that reason. I think that's really why the end result is so different because stop motion is much more approximate than CG. Really, it's less perfect because you can't go through iterations. You kind of get one go at it, kind of like real life. You get one go at it, and having mocked my acting early on, we do a lot of live action rehearsal. We call it live action rehearsal, yeah. And so I take the line that Hugh's recorded, and then go into a little booth, and I got quite good at lip syncing with Hugh's dialogue, and so I would then act out what I had in mind, and then record it, and not always me. I'm not a complete megalomaniac. So, other people would do it as well, especially the Queen. Susie did the Queen. I tried my best to sell them on my very sexy walk for Cutlass Liz, the Salma Hayek character, but I got no joy. I got no respect from the animators when I did my sexy walk. So we got a woman to do it instead. Yeah. So you do those, but I always say because it's important for everyone, especially the animators. I say you don't copy it. That's not the point. But the point is you can see the bits that I want. So you can see the important bits to me. They can see And sometimes it's great for timing. That's where it's most useful, especially with a verbal thing. Like if it's one of those lines where the captain starts to say one thing and then switches midstream, which people do, or is hesitating, or is covering up in a very obvious way, which everyone can see is covering up. Then to get the timing right on that, it's easier. I find it much easier to do it in live action than any other way.
And Hugh, does your relationship with the director change when it's on an animated film compared to a live action film? Obviously, you've got all the paraphernalia and trappings of a film set, but when you're one-on-one with the director in a voiceover booth, is that much? Is that pure sense of acting and pure sense of directing in a way?
No, I mean, I'd say it's the only animation I've ever done. I think Peter is considerably fussier and madder than most directors I've come across. I mean, maybe that's a function of budget. Most live action films, you're lucky if you get 12 takes, and on an English film you'll probably get 5. But this, you can have gazillions of takes. And Peter really made use of that.
Okay.
Yeah, on and on and on. And on.
Although one thing that's really very useful for me is that Hugh likes to do several takes on the run. As if I said turn over and he'd do rather than cut, do another take. Just do it again, which I think you like to do.
I do, but it's a balance because you also like doing a run. They had a brilliant sort of stand-in actor doing the other parts when I was so you get some rhythm going because really without rhythm, I'm completely lost.
Absolutely.
I can't just say avast 20 times in a row.
No, that's horrible. Yeah. Sorry, that did happen.
Did you get to act at all with Martin Freeman or Brian Blessed or anyone, Jeremy Piven, any of the other actors?
I had Doctor Who came in for a bit, and it was brilliant. And
in his TARDIS.
Queen Victoria came in for that.
Okay,
yes.
That's David Tennant and Imelda Staunton, I guess.
Yes.
You're playing catch-up. Any more questions for Hugh or Peter?
Hello. Hello. Sorry, a bit louder. I'm a big fan of your work. I was wondering, would you be doing any more Wallace and Gromit films at all?
I don't know. I mean, yes is the obvious answer because I'm sure Nick wants to, but he hasn't got one on the stocks right now. But he loves them so much. I'm sure he'll always return to them for the rest of his life. I'm sure he will because he loves them so much. But nothing planned.
Any more at all? Yes, please. There's a lady in here in the front row in the pink.
Hi there. Like the shirt, by the way.
Well, nice. Nice to make an effort.
Yes. I was just wondering, bearing in mind how long this film's taken, have you got plans for any more?
It's hard to think of it. Yeah, I mean, there's a very simple economic thing that takes place. If it makes enough money at the box office, then it's viable to do a sequel. If it doesn't, then nobody wants it. And actually, I would really like to because
there are more books, aren't there?
There are lots more books, and the characters are so charming, to be with, to be around, and the world is so charming. And I'd like to. There weren't enough shots of ships crashing through the sea for my taste. More and better ships crashing through the sea and stuff like that. I'd love to. There's more I'd like to do, and spend more time in Blood Island, the pirate island. So yeah, I'd love to actually.
And Hugh, is this a character you can see yourself returning to, donning the pirate captain's bushy beard one more time?
I suppose so. For a higher fee, yes.
Some ad-lib cash as well would be nice.
Yeah.
Any more questions at all for Hugh or Peter? Yep, right here. Yes, thank you.
When you sort of had the book and you had to make characters sort of visually from the book, what was your process in character design in getting those characters?
I mean, I think the main answer in most cases is to get a good character designer. That sounds like a silly answer, but that is because Gideon gave virtually no clues except about the pirate captain, who he did describe. He said he was all teeth and curls, and if you described him as a tree, and describing the captain as a tree was one of the crew's favourite pastimes. If you described him as a tree, he'd be an oak or a chestnut. So we had that, and then, funny enough, actually, interestingly, that Gideon himself, the writer, as he went along, he became a bit more cynical about his own creation, And then he emphasised the fact that the captain's right out of condition and this kind of thing later in the book, in the series. But I stuck with the first description, so that was the brief. But the others, there was no clue at all, except so we got a great character designer, a man called Johnny Duddle, and he's done he's done his own pirate book, coincidentally, called The Pirate Snatcher. Anyway, and he it was over to him, and
the only one that looks just doing all these interviews in the last few days. People keep pointing out that the only puppet that looks anything like the actor playing them is the pirate with a scarf.
Yes,
it looks like Martin Freeman.
Yeah.
Would you design him around him?
I don't know. I honestly can't remember how that happened. Whether we'd chosen him then, I don't know. I do not know. It wasn't very deliberate anyway. But it does. It looks a bit like him. Yeah. And then there's a funny detail is that Martin Freeman plays the pirate with a scarf. That's how he appears in the credits, and no one ever says that name except once. Once in passing, Brenda Gleeson says it in a very thick Irish accent, which no one can understand. So it's kind of mysterious, really.
Hugh, were you a fan of the books? Had you read the?
I hadn't read them, but I did read them.
Okay.
When I was doing the thing, because I'm a very thorough actor.
Absolutely.
And they are works of genius. Genius.
Yeah.
In fact, I found out the other day, this particular book was written in 3 weeks as a bet.
Was it?
Or was that a lie?
No, I think it's true.
A friend of Gideon's told me.
Yeah, I think it's true. He
said, "I bet you can't write a children's book in 3 weeks."
Right.
Or it might have been 2.
I think he was working at one of those vehicle pounds, a car pound. He was the man behind the wire grill that people shout abuse at.
Yes.
And he had a lot of time in his hands, so he did it. And he did it to impress a girl, certainly. It didn't work.
Yes, it's dedicated. The book is dedicated to, I can't remember her name.
Sophie, I think.
Sophie, who has £500,000.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks to Sony and Apple, and of course Peter Lord and Hugh Grant.